Osborne is being accused of getting his sums wrong when he appeared on Sky News' Ask the Chancellor special programme last month. Some of the country's biggest tourist operators have published an open letter to Mr Osborne, which you can see here, after he was asked why Britain has failed to follow 25 other European countries and cut tourism VAT.
So it is very expensive to do. It costs many billions of pounds. And second of all, in quite a lot of these other countries, it didn't actually lead to the boost in the restaurant business and the like that some those governments had hoped. I'd rather use that money to promote tourism. You know, you have to make choices in my job about where you're using your resources. I'd rather use the money to, sell Britain abroad. We've got that Great Britain campaign, which I think is the most successful tourist campaign we've had for many a decade.
Well, the campaign to cut tourism VAT, which wants the tax reduced from 20% to 5%, has published today's letter, which insists a tourism VAT reduction would cost not billions of pounds. The campaign has demonstrated that the cost will be between £0.5 and £0.75 billion in year one, revenue neutral in year two and fiscally positive thereafter. By year 10, a reduction will generate £3.9 billion for the Exchequer. In the Republic of Ireland, the cost to the Treasury there of reducing VAT on tourism was some 1/3 of that estimated by officials, and we believe the same will be seen in the UK. Well, we asked the Treasury if the Chancellor's calculations were based on their findings, but they said that they had no evidence to suggest that it was. In the last few moments, the Conservative Party has told Sky News that George Osborne does believe there would be a significant cost in cutting tourism VAT and that there is no conclusive evidence that it would boost tourism. Well, Nick Varney is chief executive of Merlin Entertainments, which owns Madame Tussauds, the London Eye, Legoland and the London Aquarium, where I met him and asked why he's got involved in the campaign.
What's prompted us is that on Sky News Ask the Chancellor, George Osborne made a whole load of comments about tourism VAT, which were both completely misleading and wildly inaccurate in our view. So, our perspective is tourism is a very, very important industry to the UK, employing over 3 million people. And whether it was through bad briefing from his officials or whether he was being deliberately disingenuous, I think the industry needs to be treated with a bit more respect.
So what specifically did the Chancellor get wrong that you're unhappy about?
Well, he sort of convoluted a whole load of different figures from different arguments about tax. I mean, we are very specifically talking about a reduction in VAT on tourism services, which is accommodation and attractions, which, by the way, 25 out of 27 other EU countries already do. So this isn't like we're just calling for something out of the blue. And what I think the Chancellor was doing was he was mixing that up with other arguments for reductions in VAT on restaurants. He was arguing that actually other countries had done this and not had an impact. Not true. 17 of them absolutely, definitely have had an impact. He was arguing that basically, putting some posters up at Shanghai airport saying heritage is great will actually compensate for 30 years of decline in our tourism industry.
Do you take any comfort from the fact that, according to all the Westminster gossip, the Department for Culture, Media and Sport is going to be abolished after the election and that tourism will go back into the Department for Business?
The industry's made very little secret of the fact that we're a major industry, a major export industry, which again uniquely is being hit by VAT. But we've argued for a long time that DCMS, which by the way doesn't even have tourism in its title, doesn't have a tourism minister. Actually, this is an industry, I think Britain's 4th biggest industry, that should actually be covered in the business department with a bespoke minister looking after it. Every other government in Europe that has tourism as a major industry does that.
What do you see happening if we get a cut of the magnitude that you're seeking?
I think it's been proven. We've run it through the models, but actually if you look at Ireland, you look at any of the other countries that have done this, it leads to more employment. And I think one of the things that, while the Prime Minister and indeed the Leader of the Opposition are very happily going around car manufacturing plants and high-tech in their high-vis jackets and hard hats, actually what isn't being said enough is that 1/3 of the jobs created in this last Parliament were in tourism and hospitality. And these are jobs that particularly are bringing in jobs for young people aged 16 to 24. I think 45% of the employees in the sector are in that age group, and that is the age group that has actually had the biggest and most difficult unemployment problem.
So you feel that the Chancellor may be perhaps looking down his nose at jobs in the tourism sector compared with jobs in manufacturing?
I think it's fairly self-evident that has been the problem, and I think it's not just, to be fair to the Chancellor, this particular government. I think there has been 30 years of successive governments presiding over a slide in Britain's relative position in tourism. We've gone from being healthily in the black to £13 billion in the red in terms of the tourism balance of payments. Put another way, 5 people go out of the country for every 3 that come in, and nothing that has been done under successive governments has done anything to actually reverse that. And the single biggest factor in that is price competitiveness. In the World Economic Forum, we are ranked 138th out of 140 countries. And so it's not surprising that we're actually losing share in so many major markets compared to our international rivals.
Primark has seen sales rise by 15%.